Very welcome to this show, and this is Wednesday, the 21st of October, 2020, as they call it. And this evening, we are going to be looking at the financing of political parties. But as we were preparing to come on the show, to come on air, news broke through that the case brought against the National Unity Platform has been dismissed. And as compliant members of this show, we are going to start with making comments on that. To discuss those topics, I have in the studio the Director for Communication of the NRM Secretariat, Honorable Emmanuel Dombo. He's here with us. You can wave to your viewer. You are not new to the show. Next to him.
Well, Odongtho, it's a pleasure to be here this evening.
Once again.
Good evening, our viewers.
Good to see you, Honorable Emmanuel. Next to him, on his right, is the Honorable Paul Mwiru, all the way from Busoga, MP for Jinja East, now a city. Honorable Paul is now a member of the Alliance for National Transformation. Honorable Paul, you're most welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Good evening, viewers.
Next to Honorable Paul is Sarah Birete. She is a lawyer with the human rights and a human rights activist. She is the ED for Center for Constitutional Governance, or CCG, and also a member of the New U, which is an election watch. You're most welcome back to the show, Sarah.
Thank you, Charles, and good evening, viewers.
Good. And finally, on my immediate left is a panelist on the show, on Behind the Headlines, and Mr. Ramadan Gobi. He teaches economics at the Makerere University Business School. You're most welcome back.
Thank you, Charles.
We have Honorable Muhanga Margaret Mugisa, all the way from Fort Portal City, through Zoom. Honorable Margaret, say hello to the viewer. Your hands are bigger than the screen, but that's okay. We shall see how that can be reset. We are missing Honorable Katuntu. I think he's now busy in the trenches in Bugweri. Campaigns are beginning, and so he should be. He made a last-minute return to stand, and so he's an independent candidate nominated successfully last week for Bugweri. Gentlemen and ladies, we just got information breaking through that Justice Sekana Musa. Are they different? Yes. Moses and Musa.
He uses Musa Sekana.
Okay, good. Thanks for that, Sarah. The judge has thrown out or dismissed the petition, the case that had been brought seeking to deregister NUP and to declare certain orders. And he threw the case out, and so NUP gets a relief, and now those who have been nominated to run on the party ticket, NUP, can now go back and eat chicken for now, slaughter goats, and they can run on the party proper from that case. Honorable Dombo, starting with you, what would you say to the case and the excitement that it had kicked?
Well, Mr. Odongtho and our listeners, many people have been prophesying and creating an impression as if the institutions in Uganda had lost credibility. And at one time we were on this show, and some people predicted how NUP was going to be deregistered, how President Museveni controls the courts, controls the parliament, controls this. And it would create an impression as if already the NUP case was a fait accompli because of that suspicious impressions created by videos. But one of the things President Museveni has continuously told people, that NRM went to fight in order to create rule of law. That people who have issues to settle, they will go to courts of law to seek justice, and they'll get justice. And I think what the courts of law have done is to deliver justice. If there is anybody who is dissatisfied, the appellate process is very clear on what people should do if they are dissatisfied with the decisions of court. So, to the pessimists, and those who thought that really the courts in Uganda had gone to the dogs, and those who had predicted doom, they should see that the rule of law is firm, it is entrenched, and those outside there who have issues and they wish to be adjudged, they are better off going to the courts of law for them to seek justice. For us in NRM, we're only doing one thing. Because we have booked a date for the nomination of our candidate.
That's fourth?
We have already got 6 candidates passing unopposed. That is 6-0. And we have, we are preparing for elections.
Good. Paul Mwiru, you are a lawyer. You practice law as well. What does this case mean for you?
To me, what is important is the public policy consideration behind the case. First, at the formation of political party, there is a requirement under the Political Party and Other Organizations Act stemming from the Constitution. When the Constitution tried to operationalize the Constitution, it refers you to the Political Party and Other Organizations Act, and it states the manner in which political parties must be governed. And it clearly states out how parties must be governed to the extent that they should be geared towards good governance. The public policy issue I'm raising, and it even has a bearing on the next topic to discuss, on the party funding, as to whether the founder members of these political parties, call them the owners in inverted commas, whether they form these political parties as businesses or they form them to participate in the governance in this country. What was notable in the judgment of Honorable Justice Musa Sekana was the fact that Mr. Chibarama alluded to the fact that he thought it was a business transaction where he knew he would earn some quick money out of the electoral process. As to the source of the money, where my brother Honorable Chagulanyi and team would get it from, I think Mr. Chibarama did not know. But I think the bigger question, to me, it is even a moral issue, where you see someone participates in the process to start with, in allowing the change of the political organization. Tomorrow is a different step, saying a different thing. Then another day is deponing, is in the court, deponing affidavits in the defense of the matter brought about. Then another day is actually deponing another affidavit. I think it speaks volume about the character of the person who was involved in, or the characters in these political organizations. And I think this takes us where we are as an organization, as Alliance for National Transformation, that other than praising ourselves by blowing our own trumpets, we have set 4 core values as an organization. The first one is godliness. The second is respect and dignity. The third is accountability. Then the fourth is zero tolerance to corruption as an organization. So whoever wants to become a member of that organization, you must know that you must espouse those values. So we don't run short of, that's why one would pose a question as to whether a political organization found on those values would end up where Chibarama and the group were And I want to say an emphatic no. Because we are alive to what is taking place in the country, everybody seems to be wanting to adopt the new normal, the stage as set by our colleagues. So I want to end by congratulating my brother, Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi, and NUP, that you see, that was a hurdle. We should have jumped to the next step. And I wish them well as an organization, because that is also part of us as an organization, that we want to see them engage in a real politics and contribute to the development of this country. But that will now take us when we discuss the next topic,
okay,
on what would be the foundation of this political organization, which would get funding from government.
Okay.
So it does not look like people are forming stratagem and shams to take benefit of public resources to develop no agenda. And that is my view. I'm only happy that NUP as a political organization, now they have the freedom to embark on their mobilization to support their candidate and their candidates from the president to the lower levels. And as Alliance for National Transformation, we wish them well.
Sarah, you run an organization called Center for Constitutional Governance. Has the Constitution won? Are you happy about this?
Well, Charles, the Constitution is about the rule of law, among other things. So when you see the rule of law prevailing and justice being seen to be done, then yes, there is a bit of victory for constitutionalism. But going back to the NUP case and implications, especially on elections, which was an immediate big political process, I think the architects behind that case wanted to achieve two things. One was to erode confidence and cause fear and panic among NUP supporters because of the uncertainty created around illegal issues. Some people who had wanted to contest within NUP chose to go independent because of that uncertainty. So I think politically, the architects of the case, to some extent, scored on that front. We wish to congratulate NUP supporters who remained firm, who contested and got nominated amidst all this uncertainty under the NUP ticket, because I think that was the target. Otherwise, politically, yes, you can raise illegal and academic issues, but this was a political target against NUP, and I wish to join people congratulating them upon winning this hurdle.
Good. Ramadan, from an observer point of view, when you see such a case, someone said it is a landmark. Some of the words used, some of the words that came out in the judgment, things to do with public interest, and the judge saying that the guys who brought the case did not have clean hands. Their intention was against public interest. If you asked me, tough words there against those litigants. What do you make of it?
Thank you, Charles. As a political person, looking from the lenses of development economics, I think this is a very good progress for the democracy of Uganda, in a way that it shows signs that Uganda is moving from process democracy per se towards principled democracy, to some extent. That a judge in a government that is managed by a party that is being challenged, and the main challenger is that person of the party under contest, stands on his feet and decides that no, this party should go ahead and contest against the government that is in power. I know some people often underestimate some of these things and belittle them, but in the Africa where we have come from, it hasn't been behaving that way. I know even up to today there are some countries, some of them our neighbors, some of these things cannot happen there. it would have completely have been a foregone conclusion for NUP that it will not contest. But to see that Uganda is now on that trajectory to some extent is a very good, to me, development. And this being a season of excitement, I think this is also very good really for the younger people in NUP, because it's a younger party, not only in the age of the party, but also the age of its members. They are very younger people. Many of them, they just hear these stories of where Uganda, you know, political parties where they have come from, and some of them, they only know NUP. So it's a very good development for our democracy. But like Sarah said, legally, there is that achievement for NUP, but politically they also lost a bit, because it had deflated them a lot. That some of the younger people were saying, in no way, let us try to be independent.
How about when you look at the give and take? Maybe it deflated them a bit, but now it has jump-started them and gone beyond what they had, where they had already reached in terms of achievement.
I think they are re-energized to some extent. I saw a lot of excitement today amongst them. I was watching TV and I saw the way they were jubilating. You would think they have won the election, the main election in January next year. So to some extent, yes, it has given them some life again. Maybe it's also good going forward that as they are going into nomination, especially of their main candidate, the presidential candidate, hopefully he will pass other hurdles and get on ballot paper. This is quite very good.
Honorable Dombo, do you as NRM fear NUP? Some people had said, whether you call them naysayers, you refer to them as naysayers or pessimists, or whether you call them naysayers or pessimists, they tend to insinuate that you fear them because you fear that they have a lot of following. Even the case, some people think that it was you who was trying to organize the young people to take it to court.
Chibalama is not a member of NRM. And we don't know where they met with Mr. Robert Kyagulanyi and team to enter into their transaction for the party. And therefore, really, that's not our business. But because it is a political field, we have been an interested party in watching and reading what exactly the developments are in the political field. Because that is all we are for as a political party. You must know, you must anticipate, you must take opinion polls. You know how many opinion polls have been coming here. We have been here to discuss opinion polls. But since the time we were here to discuss opinion polls, we have entered real polls. We have entered polls for the youth. We have entered the polls for the SIGs. We have had polls for the elderly in Uganda. And when you look at performance, almost 70 districts returned NRM leadership for youth in the whole of Uganda unopposed. So every time people talk about NUP having young people, having youth, I begin wondering what evidence they will be referring to. In politics, you don't disregard anybody. Because even the shadow, when it passes there, you may think it is a shadow, when it is something. So for us, we cannot take anything for granted. We have to prepare. That's why you see that we could raise over 5 million signatures from the whole country. But people always want to try to demean the things that are done by government. You heard when we raised the 5 million signatures, people came and claimed on social media that these were signatures that we had used for distribution of posho during the COVID time. But how many districts in Uganda was
Received the portion.
did the distribution of Posho take place? Posho was only distributed in Kampala. But the constitution,
There was also the Myoga.
the
Myoga
constitution,
registration.
The Myoga registration.
the constitution
There
requires,
was the Myoga registration.
but I'm telling you, I'm one of the people. You see, NRM is the only party with the level of structures that we have. When we went for the primaries, just NRM primaries for the members of parliament, every polling center, there were forms for the president.
They were messy. Somewhere.
So people came, they signed, we collected them and brought them because we were prepared and submitted them. They were verified and we received a certificate of compliance about 2 weeks ago. And after that, the only thing we were remaining with was to unveil the portrait of the candidates, and now we are set for the nominations.
Okay.
So
Margaret.
we cannot fear NUP, but we are prepared for anybody who comes, and for us we shall meet in the political field.
Okay. Honorable Margaret Muhanga. Yes. Do you NRM fear NUP? Why were you?
Is that Margaret?
Some people said you were sending your youth wingers, quote unquote, that you were sending your youth wingers to take a matter to court and ask for the deregistration of NUP. Why were you doing that, if so?
Oh, I didn't know Mr. Kibalama is a youth. I've never met him personally, but by the pictures I've seen in newspapers and on TV, the guy looks to be an old man. So if that is the youth winger who was sending to court, then I'm surprised that Kibalama is a youth. Then secondly, I think people should always give credit where it is due. That the NRM does not interfere with court processes. The opposition has won several cases. The only problem is that whenever they lose a case, then they think the NRM has manipulated the process. But whenever they win, they praise themselves, they praise the courts. But the day they lose, they will abuse every judge on that panel and call them all sorts of names. Nonetheless, for me, I think there is even no panic for Kyagulanyi, really. He will only produce pictures for people to see him. I have seen his pictures only in Kampala. I've never seen them anywhere else. I actually one day tweeted that the day I left Fort Potro, I first saw the first blue or red picture around Mutiana, because even in Mubende they are not there. When I reached Kampala, I couldn't even believe that there were many people running under blue and red colors, because there is none here. So somebody went on my tweet and added a picture of a person who had only produced a picture and was going to run against me in Fort Potro North. Now he has not been nominated. I think he didn't have both the papers and the 3 million. That was the person pretending to be a new candidate in Fort Potro North Division. However, I still believe he couldn't even raise 3 signatures or even 10, because we were required to raise 10 signatures and two. One to nominate and one to second. He did not have anybody. And there's nobody now running under NUP nor FDC. Where I am. We are all NRM. Surprisingly, there's a lady who has come under Alliance for National Transformation who also couldn't raise 3 people to take her to the Electoral Commission for nomination. She had to look for only relatives who are all NRM.
Why
because we were nominated at the same time.
Why surprisingly?
And we come from almost the same village. And when I asked the people who had escorted her, they said, we are all NRM. And I said, how come you have sent for somebody in Alliance? They said, you see now, because we are relatives, you really can't let somebody down. We just said, but we can't vote for Alliance. By the way, before we go in hot arguments, January or February, whenever the election date is due, is simply around the corner. I have been seeing people's portraits who have produced them. One of them is very angry, and I am sure Ugandans can't vote an angry candidate. Those are the things they left a long time ago. They want somebody happy with a jolly face who attracts votes. Anybody angry, I don't think they're getting anywhere. So some people have just produced portraits just to show their faces, but they're not going to get any votes. Around Kampala and Wakiso, I agree. The Honorable Kyagulanyi will get a few votes, but he's getting nowhere. He'll get a shock of his life. You know, when you punch above your weight, these are the things you expect. When people enter parliament, they think they've reached the moon. And especially when they have not had an opportunity to be at any leadership level, they think they've reached the moon. So if you try to shoot for the moon and be a star, and then you cannot, it is a very big disappointment. Because sincerely, when will he go to Karamoja to start in some village down there where the NRM has structures? And I hope nobody will complain this time round that, you see, we have been rigged out of the election. Sincerely, here in my villages, I have never heard anybody talk about NUP. They don't even know it exists. Wherever I go, I may find even my own votes are not there, people who oppose me. But they tell me, oh, Mzei's votes are here. Because I'm the flag bearer, so I go talking about Mzei. And so just leave that one. All the votes are his. Just look for yours, because you will share with others. Meaning, all of us are NRM people who are running here. But Ugandans out there who live in Kampala or around Wakiso and see the red beret everywhere, they think Wakiso and Kampala are Uganda. I have even lost count of the districts that exist in Uganda. They must be about 140?
46?
Or above 100? 100 and what?
46.
Oh my God. Now, only 2 districts has NUP candidates, most of whom won't go through, and then the NRM will be everywhere. So we shouldn't even go in a panic mode. But I am glad the Honorable Kyagulanyi has won that case. His party is legal. He's going to participate in this national election as a presidential candidate, but I can assure you he's punching above his weight. He's not yet ready for the presidency. People should know their levels and keep there. Or people should know their lane and keep around them. I rest my case.
Any way forward? Yeah. Yes, Sarah.
Yeah,
Which way forward do you want me to give?
No,
Let me start with your colleagues here.
No, you Charles, I want to make a comment.
Tell my colleagues.
Just want to make a comment.
That for me, I have been, I have only known the politics of NRM, because the other parties, I think, I was a little younger and I didn't understand a lot about them.
You didn't even understand UPC?
I didn't. I used to see my father sing a lot about UPC, but I didn't even know what he was fighting for. I was not political. I could see the excitement at home, but I couldn't figure out what it means for somebody to love a party and then it wins.
Okay.
Because at the beginning, yeah, and now I know the party politics of the NRM. But I can tell you that sometimes the opposition says very outrageous things that would even make them lose votes. Because whenever the NRM does good, they will always look for what is bad about that good. But yet, even people born, I had somebody on this panel saying that the young people do not know anything about the history of Uganda or the sufferings that Ugandans went through, but then they should see the transformation. My children were born, some of them in the 2000s. But even then, they can tell that they see a lot of transformation even when they come to that when they were younger. You see, this transformation started around after the mid-90s, like close to the turn of the 90s, around 98, 99 maybe, and then moved faster around early 2000s. So even kids who are 20 or 22 can see that there's a lot of transformation in this country. Wherever you live, whether in Kampala or up country in a village, you see the transformation that takes place in these countries, in these areas. And so sometimes we need to look at every angle of what is happening in our country instead of focusing on one thing. Everybody has got failures, but we should look at successes.
Okay.
Yes, the transformation has taken place. I can see some cynicism in the studios, but it's not very nice to be cynical when you're a leader. Transformation has taken place. Even the blind can see it. Even the deaf can hear it.
Okay, Honorable Margaret. That's clear. Sarah, is the cynicism on your face?
No, I wanted to react to two issues. One is that any Ugandan 18 years and above is an adult and cannot be referred to as a child, illegal or otherwise. So if people of 22 years or so are seeing transition, they are not children. And they are able and legally capable of making decisions, and if that is their observation, it is their right to make it. But on Kyagulanyi, you don't have to support a leader for you to respect that democratic rights belong to anybody and everybody, 18 years and above, a Ugandan, and if they qualify to run for any office, it is their decision to make as individuals, and they are entitled. So the question of saying whether Kyagulanyi qualifies or not, we are in election season, and the ball is in the hands of voters. Let Ugandans decide who is qualified to govern them and who is not. So I think that as a party spokesperson, in Parliament, it is not right to make such observations or even to assume to know the results that the Electoral Commission will announce in January, preempting the electoral process, saying people will get 0 here, 1 or 2. They leave that to Electoral Commission to announce. So that people play their role.
Is there a problem with that fundamentally? Isn't that
of course it is preemptive.
You know there are these boxers, when they're going into a game, they come and they are matching their...
Yes, but the democratic rules are different. Actually, somebody can claim that NRM has rigged elections and the leaders of NRM are in the know, and they are already announcing predetermined results. It is fundamentally wrong.
No, I think I disagree, Sarah. Maybe I'm looking at it so simply. But what is wrong with saying, Sarah, we are in a contest, but I'm going to defeat you?
That is okay, but to say that I'm going to get 2 votes, have you seen them? This will be a separate ballot.
The person is weighing
No. By the way, it is wrong. We are in elections, it is okay. If people score 0, let them score it, and the whole world shall see. Okay. So it is not necessary to engage in that debate.
So giving them the numbers is the problem. Paul Mwiro, do you see a problem with that?
First, I want to say, writing to the question you raised, first, by the fact that my sister and my brother are discussing Honorable Kyagulanyi in absentia, to me that speaks volumes. That actually, he sang a song that Kasukari Keiko. You understand? There must be
some sugar.
Some sugar
there.
Because it's
but make them see. They are not seeing it.
No, you see, there are more than 2 candidates in the race. But you see, they have, in their wisdom, they have picked one, and they have made him a center of discussion. To me, that gives me comfort. That Kasukari Bakakolachi.
Bakawulira.
but without stretching that point. First, because you see, why I want to demonstrate that Kashkari Bakaulira.
What does that mean?
The lyrics of the song, that the sugar in the tea, it was really to the satisfaction of Honorable Domba and the group. But I want to, moving away from that, I want to justify what I'm saying by what is in the field. Today we have been attending, I've attended barrios where there are very many people, there is police, people have no masks, they don't object the stand open person, and it's okay. I've seen it taking place. I've gone to churches, and of course you realize that actually they are not complying, the police is aware, and it is okay. But if Kyagulanyi tomorrow announced a rally or an opposition politician, which would attract even a quarter or half of the number of people at that rally, in the same spirit would be dispersed. So a very strong party, like the one my brother here speaks for, I think needs to create a level playing ground. You know, I've been asking the Electoral Commission, I was asking my returning officer, that we have nominated now I'm a candidate. Wherever I go, the police is there. They say you cannot meet people, you are violating the SOPs. Where our opponents go, it is okay. But now the debate is still going to be that, of course, they also give me some 1 vote, 2 votes, as the way they are allotting votes here. The way I see us moving. But two, and most important, if you want to understand that actually the situation is not rosy as they are saying, first one would look at the judgments in the presidential and parliamentary elections petition in the light of falsification of results. That would speak volume. That actually what they are saying, and you know, they have been asking a question that even if we did not rig, we would have won. To me, that raises also moral issues. To me, then why even in the first place rig?
Who said that?
They should have been saying that because
they who?
Of course, you have been asking those questions. We have come across NRM people who say that even if they did not rig, they would have won. But not forgetting the fact that the Supreme Court has held on several occasions. In 2006, they held that actually the elections were not conducted in accordance with the law, but they went ahead to say that did not have substantial effect on the results. But then the other issue, which also I think we need to discuss largely in the broader context, like those results we have been having, you register 17 million voters, and the process attracts 8 or 7 million voters. Then 7 million shun the process. Then you go away clapping and say, you know, I have won. That raises maybe the issues as to why my sister, where she is in Fort Portal, she did not manage to see some other, because what she's even doing herself, she knows that actually it is not politics. She's engaging in the relief and the rehabilitation. I have had the benefit of discussing with my candidate in Fort Portal where she is. She's also engaging, she has looked at the body politic, and she thinks she needs to be there and try to change, bring a new culture of politics. I think what gives her an edge is the relief and the rehabilitation politics she's engaged in. That's why it makes her think that, you see, I'm alone here. Yes, you are alone. You are an incumbent, you are in the ruling party, you can afford to engage in the politics of relief and rehabilitation. That's why you'll be alone. Because even us who participate, some of us in it, we even wonder whether it is worth participating in such. So in as long as the politics about relief and rehabilitation, you will have very many unopposed candidates. Because today, even in the next generation, many people will now be wondering whether it is even worth it to participate in such. I think the reason why even my brother didn't go back there to contest Honorable Dombo, despite the fact that he had an appointment. On the closed look, on the closed look of the process, I think it was largely about relief and rehabilitation. You just look at even the NRM premises themselves. Because if you ask my sister, my good friend Wana Mwanga, what are the issues which are very minimal in their area, she will tell you people are waiting for me in the other place. And even when you go there, they are telling her, please, you reach the point. The point is not that there is a close issue they want her to speak about. Because we have done research and all through all these villages. She's been laughing, she has seen what is there. It is pure relief and rehabilitation.
But is that almost so everywhere around the country?
Yes.
Where people say, how are you leaving us?
Yes.
Then they keep saying,
Yeah,
you know, they keep holding their throats. Now we have heard. We have heard. They're telling you, please leave something.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that it is fallacious for my brother and the sister to say that after 35 years in power, the political stage they have set is one where people must engage in the politics of relief and rehabilitation. Then they come out to say, yeah, we are very strong in the body politic of relief and rehabilitation. That's why my sister in Fort Potro, who is contesting where my sister Namwanga is, she wants to plant a seed of the politics based on values, and I think she must have had that talk. That's why even those NRM people who are attracted to her, they're attracted to her because we want to build a new future which puts people first. You understand?
Yeah.
So to us, it does not matter. And my sister may even be shocked that actually there are people rallying around our candidate. Because yes, they know Mwanga is very strong. She has the money, she can engage people in rehabilitation. But there are also other people out there in Fort Portal who want to see politics done the correct way. She can have a field day in that direction, but we shall also have a candidate who actually, the history will actually judge our right, our candidate, that when people engage in the politics of relief and rehabilitation, there are those who took the courage to go and do politics the correct way. Okay. And don't get shocked when actually the people go with our candidate. And because after engaging in the politics of relief and rehabilitation, one would ask, do you need to be an MP to engage in relief and rehabilitation? The answer might be no.
Honorable Dombo, do you want to respond? Or Honorable Margaret, do you want to respond quickly?
First and foremost, when you look at my brother Paul, I have discussed on this show before. And wondered, previously many people have been asking why many MPs, even when they have gone through the processes internally in their parties, have opted to come as independents. One wonders whether it is because of politics of relief and rehabilitation. Because they are trying to get relief and get rehabilitated. This is something that has been debated, and it is something that requires a study. Because I've seen Honorable promised us change when he went for Forum for Democratic Change. The only outcome is that he was changed out of the party. And now he's in what?
ANT.
ANT. The change he promised us in the Forum for Democratic Change wasn't delivered until he was changed himself. Now he's trying to begin something new. As he tries to enter parliament, again to seek the same, perhaps relief and rehabilitation, I don't know. But the biggest challenge our parties have faced, and I've said here on this show before, is the reason for their existence. Others call it ideological, the ideology of the party. But me, I prefer to simplify it that the reason for your existence as a political party, what is it? He's now telling us that they are there for relief.
I think I want to object.
And rehabilitation.
I want to object, and I take exception to what Honorable Domba said, because it is a value where it's one of our values to treat people with respect and dignity. That's why I had actually kept quiet. I use the context of relief and rehabilitation to respect of what they are practicing, because we are political players who have been there, and this is what that's the seed they have sowed in the population. To the extent that even if you go and talk to the people, say, these are the issues, they will have to say, you see, the NRM candidate has been there and has done ABCD, so you must follow suit. So that's the context. And I'm not in politics, maybe like, I'm not a treasure hunter. Maybe, I don't want to say maybe like you, but at least.
What are you hunting?
Yes, I have an agenda.
Which one?
From this country. And
how?
Yes, that's why I'm saying that our politics is centered on the values we believe in as an organization.
Easier said than done, because he counted the ideology of NT.
Yes.
Godliness,
Respect and dignity.
Respect and dignity.
That's why I left it to
Accountability.
Accountability.
And zero tolerance.
And zero tolerance to corruption.
Yes.
Well,
and the last one, you also have it.
NT is not yet 1 year old, I think. Or is about?
It is more.
It is more than 1 year.
Or it's about 1.5 years. If it was a baby, it would be crawling. So time will tell us, because even the same things were promised in the if this is what?
Forum for
Democratic Change. The same things were promised. And over time, he ran away from the same things he had promised under Forum for Democratic Change. Now that he has an opportunity to experiment under the new system, we cannot disturb him. But first, he must overcome the hurdle of democracy in the constituency. That's where the measure is going to be. For us, as a NRM, where I tested the party, we have a historical track. And when you look at our campaign theme that the party has adopted, securing the future of the people of Uganda. The young people who didn't get immunization are now immunized and they can grow. Those who never attained an education, they can learn and aspire. One of the people who was returned unopposed, when I was working in Rakai in 1992, he was a kid he was an orphan to HIV. All the parents died because of HIV. He received the hope through UPE. He was educated under scholarship by the president. And he has been returned unopposed as a candidate waiting for swearing in. Small young man from Rakai. And you see the hope of Uganda. You begin wondering, if NRM didn't come, where would be the future of such a young man and many other young people and their aspirations? So, for us, as we get into these elections, well, NT have put their agenda, but time will tell. Like time has told us that FDC, other than changing, it has progressively been disintegrating.
Okay. I need to remind the viewer that if you're following this discussion, the hashtag to follow online is UBC behind the headlines. Hashtag UBC behind the headlines. It is not behind the headlines on its own. Hashtag UBC behind the headlines. But you can also follow us on different channels and platforms. We are on YouTube, we are on Twitter, we are on Facebook. And go to the UBC page and you will follow the discussion as it progresses there. I think we need to move to the next topic, our main topic of the day. This one was just breaking news, and we thought that it is important to discuss looking at the implications. Now, we are moving to our main topic of the day, the financing of political parties. And I need to provide a background. The Electoral Commission has received, in accordance with the law, the Electoral Commission has received 15 billion shillings for the first and second quarter. The first starting from July to September, July, August, September, and then October, November, December. So two first quarters, and that money has been distributed, or is supposed to be distributed, to 5 political parties. And according to the law, the current law, parties that have representation in Parliament. Now, the conflict is on the distribution of the money. The 15 billion shillings, we have been told already, or it has been reported, the NRM has 293 members in Parliament. The FDC, which is the main opposition party currently in Parliament, has 36 MPs. The DP has 15 MPs, Democratic Party. UPC has 6, and JEMA has 1. Now, the Electoral Commission has given to the NRM or allocated 12 billion out of the 15 billion shillings. To the Forum for Democratic Change, it has provided 1.5 billion shillings. To the Democratic Party, it has provided 600 million. To the UPC, 300 million. While to JEMA, that has 1 legislator in Parliament, it has given 41 million shillings. The Political Parties and Electoral and Organizations Amendment Act 2010, Section 14A states that in respect of elections, the government shall finance political organizations and parties on equal basis. And that's what has been kicking the furor in town, and that the political parties are not happy about. Let me start with Honorable Mwiro, whose party has not yet received any coin. At least perhaps you will be, you can see it from a bird's eye view, so to speak. Do you think that this is the best way, starting with the formula, that this should be handled?
Thank you. I think, to me, I look at I look at party funding from 2 aspects. The first one should take the format of financing the strategic investment plan of a political party. Because we need to see, so that we are saved of this cramp which people keep on throwing around. Because the law requires a political organization to behave in a particular way. I am of the considered view that it is high time that every registered political party produces a strategic investment plan and comes up with work plans and budgets of how they are going to contribute to the governance of this country. And that would entail cadreship development, orienting people to real issues. My humble view would be that all the programs of those organizations, political party, should be funded because it's the best interest of the country. And that should be funded not basing on the numerical strength. Then when it comes to political funding, that is where maybe we would be considering the numerical strength. Though I also have an issue when we only fund political parties which are actually represented in Parliament. The Chibalama aspect of the $5 million notwithstanding. Because people have been focusing on the Chibalamas of this world who go in to use the words of Justice Second, who are looking for some quick cash out of these processes. But that does not mean that a regulated political party should not be funded. Because at the end of the day, the formula was set in Parliament, where Honorable Domba and myself were, when we came up with this formula. So on the other hand, I think we just need to know what do these political parties bring on board. Because whether you like it or not, I want to say that you cannot dismiss the role of political parties in the body politic of the country. They are big stakeholders. And to me, they seem to be breeding areas for leaders. And even this, it would be very enterprising that if these political parties were developing, because like I will give an example in Parliament, whenever there is a budget, we issue ministerial policy response to ministerial policy statements by government. You understand? But I've also seen us enlisting the services of technical people to help us make responses to this. And I would have loved to see a party which is anchored on a particular ideology, making their view on how they want these things to run. Otherwise, if we don't do that, The next time, because now I had my senior colleague here come and say there was a young man who was in Iraq, his father died of AIDS because of NRM, started up the university. Of course, one would imagine that if there was no NRM, maybe he would even have died. According to him, maybe not even started up to anywhere. Of course, which is, that's what the information we're putting up for public discourse. And because at the end of the day, I'm among those who would wish every political organization is actually well. Like I've interfaced with Honorable Dombo, off the camera. He's a person who can rehabilitate and work together if at all we took power. You understand? That there are good people even within NRM, just the way any other political organization. But the political setup, it looks like people are just looking for survival. And they even actually, because I've also been wondering, like when you are in our villages, like us who campaign, and there are NRM people who come and say, we NRM, but we are supporting you. Your interaction with them, they have a very good, they have a lot of depth about issues in the country. They're actually leaders, and they deserve to be respected as such, meaning that even NRM as a political organization, if managed as a political party, not fused with the state, maybe our view would be different about these operations. So, all in all, I can sum up to say that I want to see a revised way of funding political parties. It is not only in our, but even in their interest, that political parties which have been registered, which have submitted a strategic investment plan, weapons and budgets, which submit returns to the Electoral Commission, actually should be funded to develop their strategic investment plan, show where they want these countries to go. Because this question is like what my sister was saying, that now this young man, he doesn't want to know what he's going to do for a country. It's actually, that would be contained in how the party is presenting itself, because they will have an opportunity to have developed itself as a political organization. For instance, one of what entails, like I'll give an example of ANT. When we came up in the formation of Alliance for National Transformation, we were not looking for supporters. That's why we didn't reach out to Honorable Dombo. We were actually looking for members. It's like how you form a church and you start with followers without the real pastors to preach the word. So we thought that the cadetship development, people understand where the ocean is going, is very key. So that's why I want to conclude by saying that I would support a review of the funding, where it's properly structured. We would have to deal with the effective legal framework, so that even when people receive money, don't divert it. Because what has also caused the problem in some of these political parties, they receive very little money, and they start fighting over that small money they have received. You understand? And because they have a requirement even to submit returns to the Electoral Commission. So I want to see, and even maybe what I would maybe remind our colleagues, that even when the law was put in place, I remember, it took the intervention, the engagement of Honorable Nathan Nandala by then, was our leader of opposition, and Honorable Rumumba. Remember the operation started in the next parliament. Where they talk in the lobby, and they said, by the way, why don't we start this matter? The Honorable Nandala and Honorable Rumumba picked it up and they took the Prime Minister. I said, look, it is in the interest. It's at that point that we showed them that actually, if we fund political parties, you even benefit them more according to the current law. That's how they picked it from. So it is not bad still to have an engagement on this matter. And I think my brother will find sense in this. So we're talking about developing other Dombos, so that they're not at chance, like the other young man who was in Iraq, whom you referred to.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's go for a break, and when we come back, I'll start with the Gobi and then come to the rest of the panel members. But the discussion right now is the financing of political parties. Yes, and let me announce that if you want to follow this discussion, our hashtag is hashtag UBC Behind the Headlines. Hashtag UBC Behind the Headlines. And let's go for a break right now, and we will be coming back shortly.
Maria, since our parents are too busy with work, can we spend more time together and have fun? You can come to our home.
Akena, we still have to be careful with our lives while we wait to go back to school. Do you remember Jen, our classmate? She was misled and now she's pregnant. And her parents said they won't take her back to school. Are you ready to give up your dream of becoming a doctor? and become a dad at your age?
Dear parents, our children are still at home and exposed to risks like teenage pregnancies, drug abuse, and child sacrifice. Let us be alert not to lose an entire generation. Seek help by calling 116.
This message is brought to you by the AfriChild Center Makerere University in partnership.
Grief comes along with losing a loved one, but this should not stop you registering their death immediately. It is mandatory to get a NERA death notification record from the hospital, as it comes with many benefits that can aid you during those trying moments. A death certificate will help with taking care of inheritance, avoid identity theft, and help the government plan for better health care. It only costs 5,000 shillings paid in the bank for Ugandan citizens and free of charge for refugees. For more information, visit the NERA office closest to you or call the toll-free number 0800-211-700. This message is brought to you by NERA.
When WHO declared COVID-19 as a pandemic, the Ministry of Health reactivated the National Task Force.
So from history, we have been managing the previous pandemics, SARS, Ebola, and our motto was to stay safe in order to treat others.
We are looking at training healthcare workers continuously. We've applied this capacity building to the entire country.
We should continue getting the essential services that we have been getting before, so that we don't die from the other condition when we are trying to prevent COVID-19.
Our mission to ensure the safety of Ugandans is long-standing, and we promise to see it through till COVID-19 is eradicated.
This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health with support from the Japan International Cooperation Agency.
Welcome back from the break. This is Behind the Headlines here at UBC, and in the studio we are today discussing the financing of political parties. What is the most viable formula to use, and how, we will go into the discussion of how parties can alternatively get sources of funding towards their entities or political organizations. But we are looking at what way is the best forward for the party's financing. In the studio, we have the Honorable Emmanuel Dombo, is Director for Communication at the NRM Secretariat. We have Honorable Paul Mwiru. He is a member of the Alliance for National Transformation. He is currently MP for Jinja East. We have the Council, Sarah Birete. She is the ED of the Center for Constitutional Governance and also a member of the New U, which is an election watch or election monitor. And we have in the studio Ramadan Gobi. He teaches political economy, he teaches economics at Makerere University Business School. And on Zoom, all the way from Fort Portal City, we have Honorable Margaret Muhanga, who is an NRM Member of Parliament and is also the spokesperson for the NRM caucus in Parliament. Before we went for the break, Mr. Ramadan, take it from, pick it from where Honorable Paul Mwiru left it. He is proposing a review of the method of distribution. And he has gone ahead to also propose that government should fund activities, especially investment or development activities of all duly registered, I must say, political parties. What's your view about those?
Let me remove the mask from this one. It's very, very important.
If you have removed them, let me wear mine.
Yes, those who can wear, they will protect me. Now, we need to understand that financing political parties in Uganda is just one of the multitude of challenges faced by the parties. And also we need to understand that there is a difference between funding and financing of a party. I can see that the topic we are discussing is financing parties. But so far the submission I've had is mainly on funding parties. Funding is usually by getting money from the state, from the public coffers, and allot it to different parties. But financing would be getting out alternative sources and also finding innovative ways by the parties themselves of fundraising and get money to finance their activities. I would really think that state funding for parties is a very fragile source of financing for them. Fragile because they are going to rely a lot on the goodness of man who is in charge of the state. They may decide to delay the money. They may decide to manipulate the formula, and so on and so forth. But there are a number of legitimate sources of political party financing which political parties around the world use in order to finance their activities. One of them is membership subscription. I've really got perturbed that in Uganda we are building parties with no membership subscription. Even the party that is in power, it does not want to encourage people to subscribe to be members. It depends a lot on the goodwill of those who want to donate, and also on the state itself. Now, this culture has also gone to the opposition, where they don't encourage members to subscribe. I know we're a poor country. Okay, you can say, you know, Ugandans are poor, but it doesn't need for people to get lots of money, millions of shillings to be subscription. You can say 1,000 shillings. If a party has, you know, these people who vote, like FDC is usually voted for by about 3 or so million people. Just imagine if those people were to contribute 1,000 shillings. How much would that be for the party? The fees from representatives.
That would be only 3 billion.
Yeah, you have that beginning. 3 billion of subscription, then you add on the aspect of some income from those who are who get to win the party positions, and I think Honorable Muiru and others have been contributing this money over the years. It could also be one of them. But also parties need to become innovative. They start things which are going to create a stream of money. For example, this party have very, very demagogic supporters. Why don't you print articles which you are selling to them? Things like T-shirts, things like, you know, ladies' bandanas, and now their masks. Yes, all those beret and so on. The beret, you sell them to the party enthusiasts, especially when they are excited, like now. So many younger people are excited around the country, and they would want to make a contribution to their parties. But still, parties feel to make them contribute, you are stretching it too far. We need also to see some parties doing some business. Start a company, start a corporation, a subsidiary. And for example, look at the National Resistance Movement. It has been in power for 35 years. But they don't have any income generating activity. You have to come up with a business or corporation, a subsidiary of NRM, entirely independent of the government, and you run it on a professional ground, and you make some money, which will run your activities. Look at also some of the contributions from collective actors, like unions, trade unions, and so on. These are usually power interest kind of groups that, by virtue of their own interests, they would be very willing to contribute to certain causes. And in many developed, you know, democracies, they rely on this. But in Uganda, we are over-relying on the state. Imagine now a party which has only 2 members. How will it survive? How will it run the grassroots kind of structures to be able to mobilize and grow the party? It becomes very, very difficult. So to me, political parties in Uganda are weak, primarily because they lack financial resources, and they are over-relying on the state itself, which state even itself is not very, frugal in expenditure. Like now you can see the state itself is broke. It needs money to run its affairs. We are borrowing 6 trillion now because COVID has hit us, and now parties expect money from the state. They will use the COVID excuse and they don't fund you. And how will you manage that? Of course, you can arm twist them through the law. You must fund this. But now imagine 15 billion. What does 15 billion do for this political season, for all of these massive political parties? So we need to find another way of funding political parties. They are also over-relying on their leaders. You find, for example, in FDC, I hear, it's usually Dr. Besigye and the Honorable Nandala Mafabi contributing even money for people to nominate. In NRM, it's not different. You will find that when the leadership has not brought money to run affairs of the party, it will not run. They are only lucky that they are in a government. Now, what about ANT? Who funds the ANT? Also, the donors are anonymous. Most of the donors are anonymous. So there is no accountability.
Honorable Mwiru is asking, is
Silver card holder.
Silver card holder.
Which will cost 1 million. That's what I'm...
you see, he is now, he is the one who is funding the party. By virtue of being a senior leader there with the, maybe a member of parliament, he has some income. So you can see that after years now, Honorable Mwiru will claim the ownership of the party because he's like a shareholder. He's contributing.
Actually, that's
why these leaders don't want to leave the party leadership, because they have sunk in a lot of their own money.
Actually, there's no sense of entitlement in the end.
All right, you can defend NT, but I know how the political parties are running. My point is, bottom line, we need to stop over-relying on donations from abroad, because that's where some of these old parties have been surviving. DP getting some money from other DP parties elsewhere, and they survive. Then you'll find some others get anonymously, some money, and they support them, and they survive. We need to start to see how do we grow parties from communities, because these parties will be owned by the people. Sure. It is community economic development. Include these people who are supporting the party to contribute to the party regularly. You can say every month, if you're a member of the party, 1,000 shillings. No farmer in Uganda can fail to raise 1,000 shillings a month to run the affairs of, and by the way, that's when you grow democracy. People become interested in following up matters in the party. How are our money managed? Okay.
Not yet Honorable. Sarah, your view of how the parties should be funded, perhaps to the viewer out there, what is a fact is that the money when calculated, the amount of money when calculated and divided in this formula, it gives each MP 41 billion shillings, and that's how NRM comes to get 12 billion. That's how FDC comes to get 1.2 billion. That's how UPC gets about 300 million, times the number of MPs in Parliament times 41 million. This amount of money.
Yeah, thank you, Charles. I think we need to first look at the role played by political parties in a multi-party dispensation. I think it is important to underscore the fact that political competition and contestation is all done through political parties. And the nature and character of political parties then determines the outcome that we get as citizens in form of democracy. If you look at the nature of democracy in this country, which is almost like a, like a public auction. We all talked about money in different ways. People want, when you talk to them, they want something to pass through the neck, and that is the culture and the legacy of NRM. Because before NRM and the high commercialization of politics, really it had never been seen in Uganda that for people, even when you are addressing them, they are not even listening to the issues you're saying. They are showing you the neck. And that's why we see, our head of state turning into a moving bullion, because he must move with envelopes. And really, this is the legacy of NRM. And they should account to the people why they have turned democracy into a public auction, and the nature of, commercialization and envelopes and handouts that they throw at citizens all over the place. But having said that, if you look at the laws governing political parties, especially the Political Parties and Organizations Act, under Section 14, it has a lot of limitations, even beyond the distribution that is a center of topic today. Because Section 14, among others, provides a limit to what a party can receive, even from donations every year. And you wonder what a political party would do with 400 million a year. And I wish to ask Honorable Dombo to honestly tell us, what is the annual budget of NRM, for example? Is it limited to 400 million as contained in the Act, or the law is meant for opposition? So, and when you go to overall the kind of fundraising you can ever make as a party, even in an election, it is limited to 4 billion. What do you do with the 4 billion? A political party. So we have a fraudulent law that favors a regime in power, which is largely unaccountable. Sources of funds not known. They always claim to have well-wishers, no membership fees, and that kind of thing. So apart from the contributions they deduct from MPs and maybe the money now they receive from Electoral Commission, I don't know any other known sources of NRM. They would tell you it is well-wishers. And you wonder whether well-wishers are only targeted to one party and they cannot look at other parties. These are the fundamental challenges and bottlenecks that must be addressed to create a level playing field for all political parties to be able to raise enough money, even using different ways, whether membership, whether fundraising, whether engaging in selling visibility materials. Still, these bottlenecks must get away, so that parties are able to raise funds. But going back to the issue of Electoral Commission, how it has distributed money, Article 14 is very clear. Under A, it says during election season, money must be distributed on equal basis. And under C, it says on a day-to-day running activity, then you use numerical strength of members of parliament. So the question today is, are we in election season or not? And if we are in election season, which is obvious, then what, what authority did the Minister of Finance use to abuse taxpayers' money, knowing very well that the favored party under that arrangement will be the ruling party? And I think it is both a moral, financial, and fiscal irresponsibility on behalf of Ministry of Finance and the Electoral Commission as far as this particular funding is concerned.
Honorable Dombo, you have a question to answer on behalf of the hand that has given you. On behalf of Electoral Commission. Why I'm putting that question to you is because you are a beneficiary of the abuse of the law going by what Sarah is referring to, and I'm just using that as a reference to bring that question to you. Why do you accept, as NRM, why do you accept Electoral Commission to abuse the law, which is clearly saying the Political Parties and Organizations Amendment Act 2010, it is clearly saying, in respect of elections, the government shall finance political organizations and parties on equal basis. And Electoral Commission is going against that. Why did you accept them to do it?
When you look at that law, you clearly see that there are two different fundings we're talking about. Because during the elections, every presidential candidate who meets the requirements is provided with facilities at their disposal, provided by the Electoral Commission.
Hasn't that changed?
That is according to the Presidential Elections Act. It is different from what we are talking about.
When you come to the money that has been provided, we did not have elections in the last quarter. And the money has been released for the 2 quarters. And by the way, the other 3 quarters on the previous financial year, we did not even receive the money because it wasn't there. So we are talking about money which had been specifically provided for and must be shared according to a certain formula that was provided for and agreed and put in the law. But when you look at funding of political parties, how did it come in the first place? How did it come in the first place?
She wants to ask you a question.
What period has been financed, Honorable Dombo?
Yeah, this was for 2 quarters.
Which quarters? Can we mention them? That this month, which period has been financed?
The 2 quarters of this financial year.
As far as I am...
We are in the first quarter of the new budget. Which quarters are we talking? This is the second quarter of the new budget.
We are in the second.
Second quarter of the new budget.
Yes.
Yes. Does it fall in election season or not?
Yeah.
Because the law does not put a time.
You see?
The second quarter falls in election season.
Yeah.
It does.
So what are we talking about?
Odongtho.
Yes, Honorable.
Our beginning, the discussion this morning, this evening, we are talking about the role of arbitration or litigation or somebody who is dissatisfied. Because the implementation of this law was implemented by the Electoral Commission.
On the
For
directive
us,
of the Ministry of Finance.
We are beneficiaries of the decisions of the Electoral Commission, which implemented according to the law as provided. And if there is anybody who is dissatisfied, there are 2 options.
Go to court.
The first one is either through the iPod, where all parties meet and agree and discuss, or through interpretation of the law, because when somebody is dissatisfied, the only thing that would seek is the interpretation of the same law, either by a competent authority, like a court of law. But when we go back, how did the funding of political parties come in the first instance? Because the president and also the chairman of NRM started discussing the history of intervention by foreign organizations into the politics of the country. And said, if we do not help our local organizations or local parties to be sustainable, then they will be infiltrated and they can easily be compromised and they can be used and abused, which is a good thing. Now, given the law as it is and the formula as prescribed in the law, it is incumbent on political parties for them to begin struggling to ensure that they have enough numbers that will warrant them to get enough share of the money as provided for in the law. But what is happening for us in NRM, by the way, they may not know that there have been other sources of funding of NRM as a party.
Well, we shall.
I know you have by members of parliament, by the president as well.
By members of parliament, that is a source of funding.
Yes.
The country.
The second one
and
is
friends,
that
friends and well-wishers.
Every time there is a political activity in the country, for you to be nominated for a competitive politics within the political party, you must pay nomination fees.
But even that is being challenged because it's like almost double charge on especially candidates. And the argument that has been raised by some people, by some analysts, and you can comment on that, whether you think it is fair, is that political party activities are very serious business for the development, for deepening democracy, for nurturing governance and all that. And that you need to have inclusivity, that even the young people need to be represented. Young people coming out of school do not have enough finances to pay, say, 2 million or 3 million to participate in elections. But you're charging them, and yet the taxpayer is already facilitating the process and even facilitating electoral commission. What do you think about that?
I'm talking about in NRM elections first and foremost.
Same.
I'm not yet talking about the electoral commission, which facilitates the process, as you say. Because let me.
I want to give information.
Let me first of all develop the point. Before you bring the information, I'll take it.
Okay.
But I want to tell you that for us in the NRM, in the previous elections, we were able to raise over 8 billion shillings through nomination fees.
Yeah.
The president, in order to contest as a flag bearer for NRM, had to pay a nomination fees.
Yeah.
For members of parliament, they have made contributions. And all electable offices, people have paid nomination fees. And this has made a very fundamental contribution towards the organization of the internal elections of the party. Because this is substantial funding. Irrespective of what people say and arguments, democracy is not cheap. And these issues cost money. If you are going to conduct an electoral process and you are going to pay an allowance for people to conduct an election, somebody must fund it. Either you must provide that government funds all activities of parties, or parties must find ways of raising money to fund their activities, irrespective of the reasons that people advance. But what is the problem in Uganda? Why aren't political parties able to raise enough money from the members? Basically because we don't have a big middle class. You see, the absence of a middle class, people want to make contribution. They may pay 1,000. 1,000, how much money will this party is called what? Which has one MP?
Gemma.
Gemma. How much money will Gemma raise?
Do you
NRM may raise some amount of money, but do you know how much money we spend on organization of internal elections? If, for instance, we did not change the process to begin lining, if we still got stuck on the previous elections that we had to do, we print ballot papers, we do election supervision, that becomes very expensive. So it is still a question of, given the levels in the country, how much money can we raise out of membership fees, and whether, even if when it is paid, whether it can be substantial enough to fund all the requirements of political parties. What did we do? When I was in parliament, I remember, political parties, especially the opposition, is funded beyond what has been provided under the law, and you know it. You know that the shadow ministers are funded. You know that other expenses of political parties, other than what has been provided under the law, has been provided by the Parliament of Uganda to enable either the leader of the opposition, to a shadow government, to provide the alternative statements, and to do research to enable the governance that you are talking about to take root. But whether that will prevent the Electoral Commission from distributing the money according to the law, the Electoral Commission just implemented the law as is, and for us as NRM, our benefit was purely because of the substantial numbers that we have in Parliament. And if anybody contests that, then he can bring it in the High Court, where all parties that are represented in Parliament sit and negotiate, or somebody can seek arbitration or litigation through the courts of law, so that the law can be interpreted. Because I've just said that the courts in Uganda are democratic and they do a good process.
Honorable Miro, you wanted to ask a question of information?
It pointed to the fact that there was a question to, out of the fees paid by their candidates, the primaries and others, so they were in position to 5 state candidates. But he forgot that the smaller political parties would not even have capacity to raise those money, which even explains why maybe, you're right, but when it came to fielding candidates, actually, they are the candidates who have been more organized in terms of depth, but did not have the money. This was to inform him that actually many of young people wanted to participate in the politics of the country. They don't have the capacity to raise 3 million. That is how you would realize that my sister there wondered how one Atwairo Jacqueline of ANT found herself in the race. You will realize that maybe the one of NUP didn't have the 3 million.
Mr. Odongtho.
Yes.
Honorable Paul Mwiru is a member of parliament where that law was made, and they even increased the money.
No,
when I just gone to parliament, we were paying 200,000 for nomination.
Yes.
These members of parliament changed because they wanted to block others.
Actually, we are
and now they put in 3 million.
Actually, they are proposing 10.
So now he's making the arguments he should be making on the floor of parliament in order to help the younger people to ensure that they can get nominated.
It was in our minority report. We are saying that fee is prohibitive.
So you go and change the law and really help the young men. So that
actually, that's why someone, I think, is saying that isn't that a strategy the founder members are using to monopolize their parties? They don't want to be held accountable, you know. But let me bring in Honorable Margaret Muhanga. Honorable, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Honorable, this formula for distribution of these 15 billion shillings, what's your view about it? Do you think it is fair? Humanly speaking, not politically.
I think the money is little to run the affairs of these political parties. Well, sometimes you can't push it far because that's what our country can afford. But I want to agree entirely with Dr. Govi that political parties should also try and do business or fix money, because at some point these political parties do a lot of fundraisings, they have a lot of well-wishers here and abroad, but once they get this money, they use it hand to mouth. Whatever they get is what they inject into the activities. But if they weren't injecting all their money into activities of the parties, they would save some money, fix it in the bank, buy bonds, and grow the money. Now, for example, the Honorable Emmanuel Dombo was saying in the last elections, they got from all the candidates, they could raise about 8 billion from all the candidates that were running. There were over 1,200 people running to have the flag of NRM, and everybody had paid 2 million. Chairperson 0C5, I think 1 million and downwards. Even the National Electoral Commission is charging much less at those lower levels than what NRM charged. Because if I remember very well, the councillors going to sub-counties paid 20,000 only to the National Electoral Commission. But to the NRM Electoral Commission, they were paying 100,000 each. And there were quite many, quite a number. Now, what these parties should do, and Dr. Govi has put it clearly as an economist, is that they should do some business. The other issue I want to, maybe one day Parliament could change it, is the issue of going by the numerical strength of parties in Parliament. There are parties that could be on ground or among the population, but may not necessarily have members of Parliament. So the only other gauge that we could use to know that this party has good people is during elections.
Yeah.
If they field a candidate, how many people showed up to vote for this party. And by those numbers, we can tell that the FDC had 3 million people, the NRM had 6 or 7 million people in the population, and maybe use that as a gauge. Now imagine parties which won't raise any members of parliament, or even leaders at any level. Those ones completely miss out on the money if we are going by the numerical strength in parliament. And so if we could zero it down on the numbers that show up to vote, maybe that would be better to have these parties get some money to run the activities. The European Union uses also numerical strength of the whole country to get members of parliament to the European Union. I think among the 27 or so countries in the European Union, Germany has the highest population, about 80 million, and it sends the highest number of members of parliament to the European Union. Now, countries like Hungary, Croatia, with smaller numbers, have also smaller representation in the European Union Parliament. Now, if we could adopt that kind of arrangement, I think even parties that cannot raise any member of parliament could have some funding. Now imagine a party like CP that didn't have any member of parliament, but it's an old party. It's quite an old party. It loses out on any funds from the government. Oh. Don't you think that's fair? Because it has subscribers, but doesn't have any member of parliament. Okay. Maybe we could change the law to incorporate such parties that cannot raise leaders at any level. Your take? Okay.
I have a question from someone called Twesije from Rwampara. He's sending a, this is a nice one, that, hello Charles, thanks for the show. Deliver the message through Dombo, Honorable Dombo, to President Museveni that informed persons like Sarah Birete there also deserve ministerial posts. Thank you. I honestly love her analysis of political issues and critical thinking. Sarah, there is someone who wants you to become a minister. I don't know whether you know the person. And then someone is also asking, this 15 billion, the person said 50, but it is 15 billion we are talking about. To Sarah, is this 15 billion for day-to-day running of parties or for election financing? If it is the latter, which is election financing, why not NUP and ANT? This is an important question.
Charles, that's what we've been talking about. That the law categorizes how the money should be spent. So if money released was for 2 quarters, the first quarter maybe should have been allocated according to numerical strength, but the second quarter, which falls in election season, should have been allocated as per the law on equal basis to parties. But even the first quarter of this financial year falls in election season. We started with special interest elections, even before COVID. So the whole of this year is election season. We can look at the roadmap for electoral commission. When did we start elections?
December last year.
COVID disrupted the roadmap for special interest elections from village level. Isn't that election season? So the whole of this year falls in election season, and that money should have been spent as per the law on equal basis.
They should have gotten money.
Yes, all parties should have gotten money this year. We started elections in February.
Wouldn't this be a very good case for public interest litigation for somebody, so that we can get really what exactly the law says? Because it is her opinion versus another person's opinion. The Electoral Commission had an opinion, and they have interpreted the law and said they have disputed matter according to the law.
No, by the way,
now there is the
Electoral Commission
there is Sarah's position,
some
and there is the
information,
Electoral Commission position.
Electoral Commission is on record that they distributed money as per Ministry of Finance directive.
Yes, the directive.
They have not referred to the law. They are referring to the directive on how money was released.
Which is based on the law, I thought.
Of course, Electoral Commission knows the law, and they know money has been spent wrongly.
So
But
I'm still asking the same thing, that given the different opinions that are available, and the only person who can interpret the law are the courts of law, isn't this a good case for public litigation? For somebody to go to the courts and find out what the courts say about the law.
Honorable Dombo, politics is above the law.
Would Honorable Dombo be a litigant?
That's why.
Such a case?
That's why I say
politics creates the law.
That's why I said,
isn't it?
If it is politics, discussing politics, then iPod would be the right.
I actually think that maybe iPod, but the iPod is making noise. Isn't Honorable Basaliro a chairperson currently of iPod?
Yes,
and is making noise and saying, no. Why don't they then go back? Why doesn't he call an iPod assembly? And they go back with the Prime Minister and they say, we think that this is unfair, the distribution, and during an election, why don't we go back to Parliament if that is what is necessary? And the politics can sort it out.
Charles information. Actually, the chairman iPod is on record to have said that they discussed this matter, even in iPod, and reminded the government that during election season, money must be distributed on equal basis.
Okay. I think we are now moving towards the last quarter of the segment. Let me start by asking Gobi to ask the guests a question.
Very good. Let me start with Sir. Why should we, the people of Uganda, political or apolitical, bear the burden and responsibility of funding parties through our tax which we pay, when these parties, they are being held as if they are personal properties of their leaders?
Charles, we can discuss the challenges of democratic credentials of parties and the democratic principles, including the crisis of lack of internal democracy in most of these parties. And that's what Dr. Ango is talking about. But as to why a taxpayer should fund political parties, these are tools for public participation. We are mandated by the Constitution to participate in the day-to-day governance of our affairs, either through political parties or through as independents, as citizens in your rights. That is under Article 78 of the Constitution, Article 38, and the national objectives and directives of state policy of the Constitution. So how do you want citizens to participate in their governance in a multi-party dispensation if we cannot invest in building credible tools for public participation? This is the reason why a citizen must be interested and must also fund and contribute to the building of credible political parties for a credible multi-party dispensation in this country.
Honorable Mwil, you know, in Uganda, many people think that leaders should pay or contribute money for their political parties. Me, I'm looking at it as a tragedy of using personal funds to run a party or party activities. What are your strategies as ANT to raise finances to run your party and ensure that it takes power?
Well, thank you. Actually, I agree with what you are raising. that there must be autonomy of an organization from the leaders, and as an organization, we intend to run fundraising drives. Despite the fact that the Honorable Dombos have intimidated all business people who would make a contribution to the development of their country. But of course, one, it is membership. If you enter Alliance for National Transformation, we have already put a notice to members. Actually, that's why when I also went to the party headquarters, that I had to say I need to buy a silver card of 1 million shillings, and I didn't have to have all the money. I started depositing on this card until I will fully pay, and then I have the card. So through membership card, we assume we shall be able to meet. If you go to our party headquarters, it is where we have articles which we sell to the public. We have also made public appeals that if they want a new future, which works for everybody, it is in the interest even of Honorable Dombo. During broad daylight, you can continue saying whatever you are saying. It is permissible. But when you get some good money, any money, pass it on to us. We shall continue with the work we are doing of laying a firm foundation for this country. Of course, we are making we make public appeals to all stakeholders to know that it is in their interest to build a sound vehicle for the governance of the country. That's all what we are trying to build as a foundation. We want the people to own the party. We come up with programs where we seek for people to fund particular programs. We have made those proposals, and some have been funded. But the core must be raising money through the citizens.
Thank you. Honorable Dombo, as the spokesman of the party in power, there have been accusations or rumors that the party is using state funds to run. And the whole onus is on you to prove to Uganda that the party actually has its own sources of funds. What are your main sources of funding? Can you kindly reveal them today?
Contractors.
When the NRM was in the bush, the biggest funders of NRM were the Wananchi, who would support the war effort using cassava, contributing their cows, contributing the war effort, because there was no state from which the NRA would lose money from the coffers. It was in the bush, there was a government, and the NRA was fighting a government. So progressively, there have been people who have continued to support. The chairman of the party has been leading fundraising from within and without, especially people who have a historical relationship with the NRA at the time of fighting. But also, there are things that are attached to the structure of the economy, I mean the structure of government, that are difficult to differentiate. One, because we have had our meetings of for instance, the party caucus meetings have taken place in State House. And those are privileged situations which should exist because of the nature of, because the president is the president of Uganda. You cannot detach him from enjoying the things that he enjoys as an incumbent. There was an attempt during campaigns to say the president should resign or relinquish power so that he could travel as an individual during campaigns. Unfortunately, the proposition was not adopted by law. So I want to assure the Ugandans that NRM relies on the contributions from the members of parliament. They are big, their number. Over 200 members of parliament making a contribution of a percentage of their salary. That is substantial contribution. It helps the party to survive and do some activities. The fundraisings by the party chairperson, but also some business organizations have made contributions, especially whenever there are activities that require funding. Then the money we've been talking about, the 15, like this 12 billion contribution, this substantial amount of money which will enable NRM to pay. That's why in situations where we don't have flag bearers and we get independence, it affects, there would be contribution if somebody is elected without a flag of the NRM. That would be the disadvantage you would face. But basically those are the major sources, including those that I had already mentioned during the discussion.
What is the annual budget of NRM?
That's what.
You want to answer that?
You should visit the NRM and so
you are not, are you
have a discussion.
Maybe who is the new secretary in charge of administration?
But is the spokesperson?
We have.
They have audited reports.
There are things you could find out when you visit the party headquarters.
They have invited you to visit the party headquarters. Let me Let me bring on board Honorable Margaret Muhanga. Please go for your questions. The panelists are waiting for you.
Okay, my first question will go to the Honorable Paul Mwiru. How are you going to organize yourselves to reach the grassroots, since your party chairman and presidential candidate said he likes building parties from the grassroots? Now that we are not having rallies and public gatherings, how are you going to mobilize the grassroots? And the next question will go to the Honorable Emmanuel Dombo. How is our presidential candidate, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Tibuhaburwa Museveni, going to carry out the campaign, the virtual campaign, since neither the masks nor the radios were distributed to the population as earlier promised? Then my last question will go to my friend Sarah Birete. Sarah, since you are working with the constitutional governance program, how can these parties, political parties, work together, especially parties in the opposition, to build a coalition to manage, to build a coalition to manage to host the current government without necessarily targeting the personality of President Museveni, working as opposition to build better governance, better constitutionalism, and so on and so forth, without just having Yoweri as their target?
Honorable Paul Mwiru, you were the first.
I thought actually the question she put to me, she should be answering it herself, because we're inside the political party, we have our hands are tied. Now we reach out to people. But having said that, we are reaching out to having town hall meetings, and for instance, this Saturday we are in Jinja. We are opening up our offices and meeting all our candidates in the sub-region. But of course we shall be using the radio, the television, and then the social media, because that is the stage which has been set. And of course, and we are trying to comply with the standard operating procedures. It is a very big challenge to us as a new party, but we are reaching out in as far as we can. So thank you so much for the question.
Honorable Dombo.
Honorable Margaret Muhanga should know better that ever since COVID started in the world, President Museveni has not conducted any rally to teach Ugandans about COVID. But all the messages he has addressed the country about COVID,
state media,
every human being, wherever they are, they have picked the messages and they have responded. Every morning in the villages, you go when President Museveni had addressed the previous night, you'll get the remotest areas of the villages, people telling you the decisions that were taken, whether there is curfew, whether something has been suspended. So the media, through radios, through televisions, people are access to the media. People have small radios on their phones. So this has demonstrated to us that we can use the same media for political campaign. And we are going to, we also tried this during the SEC elections. We were able to conduct the virtual meetings during the SEC elections and discovered that it's something that can be achieved. And we are planning something which we shall be announcing soon, how we are going to be doing it. And once it is approved at the appropriate levels, then we shall be coming here to discuss it to enable the public to know how we shall be doing it. But we shall just rely on the media, because our people can access radios, those that can access TVs can, and those can access social media will. So it will be a combination of strategy, using the social media, using radio, TV, and any other forms of media that will be available.
Thanks. And finally, Sarah.
Yeah, Honorable Margaret, the question of political unity in this country goes beyond mere opposition. All political parties in Uganda should have what is commonly known as, the common good. I remember the days at the reintroduction of political parties in 2005 when Dr. Crispus Chiyonga was running that program on trying to generate consensus on what is the agreed minimum agenda in a bipartisan manner. That should be the beginning point. What is it that every Ugandan should work towards, regardless of our political thinking, belonging, and beliefs, or whatever it is? We do not have what unites us as a common good. We do not have common values as a people. We do not have a common agenda across political parties as a country. And this is unfortunate. This should happen, and it includes especially the party in power. But going back to opposition and political unity within the opposition, I believe unity is garnered towards a common goal and common agenda. And once the opposition parties find the need to do so around what they consider to be a common good and a common agenda for them as political opposition in power, they will do so. Must they unite to compete in elections? They don't have to. Must they unite to change government? They don't have to. But when the need arises, they will unite.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you so much, Honorable Paul Mwiru. Thank you, Honorable Dombo. And thanks so much, Mr. Ryan Gobi. On the line from Fort Portal, thanks to Honorable Margaret Muhanga. And more thanks is spared for the viewer out there, who is very important to us, and as well as the technical team here that ensures that this show is able to come your way. And thanks so much to my producers, Ivan, Morris, William, Bills, many of them, and the entire team, Fred as well, and all the guys who work on the cameras here, the guys behind the room, in the technical room. Thank you so much, and God bless all of you. Until next week, bye-bye, God bless you, and make sure you stay safe. Coronavirus is still here. Maintain the SOPs of Ministry of Health, and Keep safe. We need all of us alive. Bye-bye.
Winston Churchill named it the Pearl of Africa. Uganda is probably one of the most gifted countries in the world. The people, the food, the love, the climate, the culture, the scenery, and the peace and tranquility. Join us as we take you through the journey. The journey, live and exclusive to UBC, your public broadcaster, inspiring Uganda.
This weekend on UBC.
Allow me to introduce to you a gentleman that is defining all means and, you know, shaping this art industry in all dimensions. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the incredible Kwizera Alex. There are a few parents